Alrighty, it is noon, so I am recording. Hello and welcome back to Welty at Home, the slow reading virtual book club that alternates works by Eudora Welty with works by authors connected to Welty. Today we continue our series exploring Anne Patchett's Tom Lake. During this series, we have read and discussed about 40 pages each week. And as a reminder, we will be having a brief fall break next Monday, October 20th, and we will resume our discussion the following Monday, October 27th, with the final 3 chapters. And we will conclude this series with an entire book discussion on Monday, November 3rd, where we will be joined by Anne Patchett. In the meantime, please send the questions that you'd like to ask Anne to Suzanne and myself using the email info@eudoraweltyhouse.com by our next gathering, October 27th, after which Suzanne will select the questions and invite you to pose them to Anne on November 3rd. I'll let her explain a little bit more about that in a moment, but first, let's do our introductions and housekeeping. I am Anna Traylor, the Special Projects Coordinator at Eudora Welty House and Garden, and we are grateful to Suzanne Mars, Eudora Welty's friend and biographer and Professor Emerita of Millsaps College, for guiding these discussions. To comment or ask a question, click the reactions button at the bottom of the screen and select raise hand. If you're on a tablet or a phone, you may have to tap the screen for this option to appear, and a lively discussion takes place in the chat as well. So be sure to glance over at that chat box every now and again. And I collect those weekly chat transcripts to share at the end of the series, but if you'd like the working copy, please just let me know using that email, info@eudoraweltyhouse.com. So with that, Suzanne, where shall we begin today's discussion?
All right. Yes, I just want to say one thing about your questions. Please write out your questions and send them to us. And just so we can be sure we don't have too many and that we don't have too much repetition, Anne and I will go over them, and then we're going to let you pose them yourselves. So after I welcome Anne on November, what is it, Anna 3rd, November 3rd, after I welcome her, then I'll start calling on you all to ask your questions. So think about those. This is a great opportunity for us. Okay. Monica and Cheryl and Catherine Fries have all called my attention and yours to the character of Pallas, but we haven't talked about her very much. So I'd like for us to talk about her more fully today. And you can reach back to earlier chapters if you want, because we've kind of passed by those references quickly. But I want to focus on her in chapters 16, 17, and 18. So let's move with her through these chapters, focusing just on her. And then we'll double back and we'll talk about other issues in the chapters. But let's give Pallas her time today. First off, what about her name, Pallas? Does anyone have any suggestions about that name? I know Anne said that a lot of the characters are named after people that work in the bookstore. I don't know if this character is or not. Debbie may know, and if somebody says that in the chat, Anna, you'll let us know. But why choose Pallas for this particular character, do you think, as a name? Does it capture her? Cheryl.
So a palace is a structure that enshrines someone, right? It's like it enshrines someone, but it also protects someone. And I have decided up to chapter 18 that I do not like Peter Duke. And I feel so hurt for Pallas that she allowed Duke into her emotional space and is left by the end of chapter 18 crying in her underwear on the couch. So I just think of the dual meaning of, or symbolism of, a palace.
All right, so it's not spelled the way palace would be spelled, but it sure sounds like it and it looks like it. And so that sense of her as a kind of royal personage, regal, significant, and abused, yeah. So I'm with you, Cheryl. What else? What else? I wish is Catherine Fries here? Jenny, is it Jenny calling me, or Harriet? Yeah. Harriet, you go.
Okay.
And then Jenny after Harriet.
Okay. Hi, Jenny. Um, I Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about with Palace is something we've seen before with Joe and Uncle Wallace, is that different actors bring very different things to a role, and that they both may be excellent, but a performance is an interpretation. And I'm looking back at the text and seeing you listened to Uncle Wallace because he was mesmerizing. You listened to Joe because he was telling you what you needed to know. Pallas was a good head taller than I am, and she was black, but Pallas was Emily. Um, and then Pallas, day after day, she had watched me in rehearsal and made the decision to do the part her own way. I'm thinking back to Emily, to Laura uh, in the high school gym, watching those performances and thinking about how it should be done. Someone in the audience says, Emily isn't black, and we can talk about color casting. Blind color casting debates in the 80s. But she is Emily. And her interpretation is different um, than Laura's. She's spectacular in the role, which doesn't mean that Laura wasn't, but she's different. Her wedding day was played not for eroticism, but for fear. She didn't want to leave home, keep house, make meals, endure childbirth because childbirth would kill her. She wanted to be her father's girl, her birthday girl, his birthday girl. Growing up was a terrible thing, a clear path to the third act. Emily showed us that all the moments of life that we had missed and would never get back again.
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm thinking about how good Palace is. And we can talk about, her impact, but that's a different topic. But there was one other thing I wanted to say about Palace, and that is if we're trying to move through chapters, I was just thinking about.
I'm still back on her name. I haven't given up on the name. I think there are other things to do with that, but we're going to finish your point first. All right.
Okay, no, I'm just saying she's spectacular, and she's different. And she's
I
not.
want, yeah, I wanted to stress that very passage that says the remaining few who'd managed to hold on to their belief that Emily could not be black were destroyed by the third act. We all were. When she went back to her mother's kitchen, I cried like I'd never seen the play before. I cried because she was that good. I cried because I would never play Emily again. I cried because I had loved that world so much. And to me, this is really an important point that the actress can make you, as an audience member, colorblind. The power of art to transform the audience. This is what we need in this world. The power of art to make you imagine yourself into someone else. And instead of being like Duke, so caught up just in yourself, that she has that really great power, I think. I don't know if does that go along with what you're saying, Harriet?
It does. I was thinking though too, to take it in a different place. I was thinking ahead to the moment when Ripley is interested in Duke
No,
and uh,
let's save that. Let's save it.
well, I wasn't going to talk about that. I was just going to say that he uh, he, she says, "What about Palace?"
Yeah.
Or does, and Ripley says, who? Um, and he said, I don't need a girl.
Yeah.
And I'm reading that as, in particular, I don't need a black girl. She is in a tough spot in the theater, and this movement um, towards blind colorblind casting is happening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Today it's common. Today you go to the theater and you'll find that all over. But not then. You did not find it then. Yeah. Jenny.
I believe it was Janice. Was that who it was?
Jenny, we can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Oh, thank you.
and then Bill afterwards. Somebody also put in the chat Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena.
Oh,
So
thank you. That was my point. Yes.
And that was my point. It all comes around.
Good. Go, Jenny. You go.
It was just that the meaning of the name Pallas, being an old Greek name,
Mhm.
from Pallas Athena, the goddess of wisdom and the theater, the two
Uh,
together.
oh, wonderful, isn't it? Yeah. And so there we have this name evoking Pallas Athena, the theater and wisdom. Yeah. And what Harriet's been saying about her fits that palace. Yeah. Bill.
Well, some of the points I was going to make are already have been made very eloquently, and one was Pallas Athena. Somebody had mentioned that in the chat, and I was just going to point that to people.
Let's give
She was,
a shout out to whoever mentioned it in the chat.
yeah, and but she was also the goddess of strategic warfare,
Well,
and so she was very much a strategist here. I think she kind of saw the long game and was going to take her chance on it. I really liked her character. I think she was one of my favorites.
mhm.
So yeah, just the whole bit about Peter Duke. Anybody that I mean, you could see what he was going to do from almost the first time he entered the scene. In Laura's bedroom when he first met her, and that was his kind of game.
Yeah.
He was just, and the other thing, the other Greek reference is the Achilles. Everybody's got an Achilles heel, and
Right.
so Peter Duke was a lot of women's Achilles heel, I would say. Heel being the thing I would emphasize the most in that.
I would love to add about these references to Greek mythology too, if I may. So I'm really interested in the Pallas Athena myth. The first myth that I think of whenever I think of Athena's palace actually has to do with Zeus, or not Zeus, Poseidon and Medusa. And so, like in Medusa's time, one of the things that made her into a Gorgon, or is believed to have made her into a Gorgon, was the anger by Athena because Poseidon assaulted her while she was in the Athena's temple, and she lost that virtue. And it's almost like this, like the man is coming and like putting the women in competition with one another. There's that element that I think is echoed in this place, and like we don't see Pallas as like this evil character. We see her as also a victim of the storm that is Peter Duke.
Right. And Laura says, what I did to Veronica, the situation I had with Veronica, Pallas now has with me. I mean, there's that pattern. And then we have Kat, who had the affair with Uncle Wallace, and was glad she didn't go to the hospital because his second wife, Elise, is there. That betrayal. And of course, Elise is the second wife. So what about the betrayal of the first wife? And so there's this recurring pattern. And I think there is a notion of kind of sexism of, when we started off with Laura maybe thinking she was going to have to sleep her way into the role. And so we have that notion here. And then at some point they talk about how Laura talks about how the theater is dominated by men. The women are doing the backstage work, the seamstresses. They're not the power brokers in the theater, and especially of this time, I think. Yeah. What else? What else about Pallas? I love what Sebastian says about her when he's talking to Laura when he comes back for the play, and he says, this is on 247. It's going to be so much easier for her now. When it was our town one night and then cabaret the next night and then rehearsing Fool for Love all day, I thought she was never going to make it. Why hadn't I thought of it this way? all the pressure she was under because of me. Her boyfriend made me stay. Her boyfriend made to stay at work because of me. Small wonder she could barely stand to be in my room. Palace is tougher than the rest of us, I said, by which I meant Duke and myself, not Sebastian. So, yeah, she's been working really hard. She's been knocking herself out, and Kat feels empathy for her. Laura feels empathy for her. The only one who doesn't feel any empathy is Duke. I mean, and then Sebastian, of course, feels betrayed. What else about Palace? Anything else about Palace?
Somebody else has mentioned in the chat about Palace's name that it's one letter different from Wallace. So if you would like to add your comments about that, Suzanne, I think that it would be appreciated.
I asked Anna, do you think this will be really over the top if I bring it up? Because when I was looking up the name Palace, it said it's the Welsh word would be Wallace, Wallis. And so I thought, oh, Wallace Simpson, married to the Duke of Windsor. So I think I bet Anne would find this rather amusing and over the top, but I have to say I did entertain that possibility. I don't know what y'all think of that. I think Pallas Athena and the reference to Pallas and Duke as gods is more to the point. Yeah, but there you are, and also a link to Uncle Wallace through the name. Yeah.
Another connection has been made in the chat. This Zoom user is doing a lot of work for us. If you would like to contribute, we would love to hear your comment. But they have said the Saint Sebastian is the saint for athletes, disabled protector of plagues. So,
Could you say that again, Anna?
Sure. This user in the chat points out to us that Saint Sebastian is the saint for athletes, the disabled, and protector from plagues.
Ah, good. Thank you. So I think Pallas commands a tremendous amount of sympathy. And now, Harriet, I cut you short, but why don't you finish us up on? Do you have anything else you think we need to think about with Pallas? You think we've covered the?
Yeah, no, I think we've done well. I mean, I don't. Well, have we done finished out Palace? No, but do I have anything more to say? No.
Okay.
There is. I do want to say. I mean, we usually talk about these by chapter.
But I'm going to go back and do that next.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say that the one thing that struck me in this chapter is something that was curious that I wanted to talk about a little bit was that she's reading Bridge over the San Luis Rey,
Yeah.
Thornton Wilder, as she's hurt. She's had this accident, and it's changed her life. And that novel is about an accident on the bridge that kills 5 people, and then the the brother in the local mission is decides to investigate whether there's anything to explain accident, and with a sense that was their fate determined by their lives? Did they live lives that should lead to this terrible early death? And of course, he finds that there's nothing is to determine that, and he presents it and to his religious group, and they think it's heretical, and they burn the book and kill him and burn him. But it also ends with the abbess saying that there is a bridge between the living and the dead, and that's love. And I'm just very impressed with the way in which Patchett has these illusions working for us so well throughout the book, so that we have all these plays in our head and the characters, and here's another one.
Yeah, the way illusion enriches our reading. You can read the book without following you wouldn't have to read Our Town. You wouldn't have to read Fool for Love. You don't have to read The Bridge of San Luis Rey. But if you do, then your understanding of the novel is, I think, enriched, and the novel it adds dimension, texture. It's a wonderful use of illusion, I think. All right, so let's go on, and we can talk about chapter 16. Let's look at it, and so we're not going to talk about Palace, or we can talk about Palace, but we'll just talk about it chapter by chapter now. So in chapter 16, it has ended with her rupturing her Achilles tendon. Her Achilles heel has been going along, being directed by others, playing this game she shouldn't have been playing at, trying to play at a level she's not prepared to. And that's him in her Achilles heel. But then we find out Duke doesn't take her to the hospital. And this chapter begins. Daddy would have taken you to the hospital, Nell says that night at dinner. She will not let this new turn go. Daddy most certainly would have taken you to the hospital, Joe says. So why do you think we're starting off like this for in the chapter? Cheryl.
It just occurred to me while I was reading this chapter, because we were talking about whatever the name of the other movie was, like The Ideal Man or The Right Man. The ideal man for the daughters is Joe. Right. And that just like hit me. That's their ideal of who a man, a husband, and father should be. And that's my comment.
All right. Yeah. So here is Joe set against Duke. Daddy would have taken you to the hospital. Duke doesn't. He doesn't even consider it. He's got an understudy. He could go, but he doesn't. He lets Sebastian do it. And we find out that Laura and Joe have even passed on the highway as she's been going to the hospital, and that Joe has come and sat with her to sit with her in the hospital while she's there, unbeknownst to her. So this casting of Joe in contrast to Duke. Joe, who is a very good actor, who is an excellent director, but who also has this kind of humanity and this kind of rootedness that Duke lacks, this lack of self-absorption. What else? Do you think that Patchett is setting up the family as opposed to the world of art? Are these supposed to be two options? Is that what do you think? I hope we can have both.
Can you repeat your question? Was it family versus art?
Yeah, family and art here. What about family? John, do I see you reaching for the arrow? Whoops, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Related to your question, can you have both family and art? And I don't know why this occurred to me, but I've from the beginning, I've thought of Duke as the Russell Crowe of this book, and his lifestyle, and what I understand he's done as an actor, and as an alternative to that, I also think of Joe as the Paul Newman,
Yeah.
and that he and also a female equivalent to Newman is I'm not sure I'm going to say her last name correctly, but Mary McDonnell, who was in Dances with Wolves, and then Battlestar, and she won an Oscar for that, and then in Battlestar Galactica, I think she's a terrific actress, and she's been married to the same man her entire life. And Paul Newman's been married to Joanne Woodward his entire life. So I think I definitely think that there are examples where the home life and the acting and the art have combined very nicely. And then there are other people who it's just a train wreck for.
It certainly would put a stress on any relationship, the demands of the profession would. Yeah, Bill?
I was just thinking. I think it's a great point that John just made. But the whenever Joe is introduced into the novel, he comes in and out, and whenever that happens, the story shifts in a different direction. And it's almost like he is still the stage manager, uh, staging this story and introducing different ways of it happening. So, when he comes in, she finds out that yes, he indeed did come to visit her that night. She was in the hospital. She was unaware of that. And all their years of marriage, he never told her that. The subject never came up, which is interesting. And it kind of deepens their relationship in terms of just them as a married couple. That he has that kind of love that he shows. Uh, the role of Ripley in this chapter, I think, is really good.
Yeah.
He just adds such just another layer to this story, and I can't imagine an agent doing this kind of thing. And I don't know what he was. Was he an agent? Was he a producer? Was he a director? But he just has this interesting role in this particular chapter. So, but Joe just seems like he changes the direction of the stories whenever he appears.
Yeah, another thing I was going to point out is that Laura says our girls couldn't imagine being in the hospital without family around them. But Laura is in the hospital without family around her. In fact, she won't call. She won't call her grandmother. She won't call her parents. She won't call her brothers. Uh, she's going to be the independent woman. And but her girls couldn't possibly imagine doing that. And then Joe stands in opposition to that. So we do have this kind of tension here between the world of the actor and the world of the family, and trying to find a way. And Nell is searching for a way, isn't she? A way to have both. Yeah, not to abandon. Her father is her ideal. She doesn't want. Daddy would have come. Yeah, but yeah. Let's
I
talk
was
about
Cheryl, the name of that book was the film was The Promised Man, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
and not The Ideal Man, The Promised Man.
Promised Man. Harriet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it worries me a little bit that the book presents art versus um, uh, decency, to the extent that it does. Um, and we are looking at the world of the theater, um, and um, and I think that it's an interesting. Um, it's pretty immersed, I think, in the world of the theater and show business. Um, but I was also thinking that there's more than one decent man in the book. I mean, Joe is one, but Ripley is another, um, and
And he is definitely in the world of art. Yeah.
right. I mean, he is show business. Yeah, that's it. But it's it does the book does set up a division for because of the choice that Lara has made, and I think another something that we going forward, are thinking about, which is did Laura did is this why did Laura make the choice that she made? Was it the only choice that she could have made? Um, and um, what informs it? I'm thinking about the passage where she talks about um, um, her heart feeling grief and humiliation and longing, so much so that she thinks that the muscle might rip, um, and um, so it's this is. I'm just thinking that the division is something that she is for her. Her life has divided these two things.
I think that's a really good point, because think of the man who she's met at the Algonquin who wouldn't take advantage of her. Ripley, who's trying to help her out. So it's not, either or. I'm wondering about her as an actress. We could talk about this. Are we to take her evaluation of herself as an actress at face value? Um, is she not good? I mean, her children think she's been wonderful in Singularity, which is an interesting title. Ripley thinks she's talented. Joe thinks she's talented. Uh, Duke thinks she's talented, but she says, "No, I'm just playing the role I know, the role that's me, and I don't have talent." And she backs away. Or seems to me when she goes to Hollywood and she has to perform for all of those talk shows, she's a pretty good actress. She goes right on Johnny Carson. That would be a daunting prospect to me to go on Johnny Carson and charm everyone. She does it. So she plays the role they've cast her in there. Cheryl.
I like how Ann Patchett brought us to, she makes us think about how we perform in our daily lives and the roles that we have to play. Some roles that we'll have to because we want to, but also have to because we have to at times. And then I'm not at my laptop, otherwise I would just put this in the chat, but there's some really great insights about Joe in chapters 13 and 14. And I like when Nell makes the observation that you date to her mom, you dated George, and then you dated Editor Webb, and then you married the stage manager. And Joe's just like, he humbly says, well, I knew the part. But then also real quick in chapter 14, Joe is the one who is the least over the years, and he had a radiant optimism and health that no amount of gray shadow beneath his eyes could diminish. No one thinks of the stage manager as a young man, but why shouldn't he be? God can be anything. And that's one of the more profound passages of this book. And on the next page, they're talking, Laura is wondering like if Joe played the part of stage manager because he was in love with her. And I thought that was really cool. That's it.
And maybe he did, yeah. And I think this goes along with Bill's idea of Joe as a stage manager. I want you to write it up, Bill. Publish that someplace. Uh, uh, let's talk about Ripley. I'm still back on Ripley's Believe It or Not. Ripley is a sort of emblem of opportunity, of chance, of what happens on the bridge or what can happen to lead to one to a successful career or but also a self-destructive life, perhaps. Yeah, John.
The what is it? My impression of Ripley and his relationship with Laura is that that he really, his care and his attention to her goes beyond, in my mind, just that she is a actor and that she's going to act in a movie for him. I think that Laura is totally oblivious to it's really, to me, very touching how much he cares for her, and that he went from California to Michigan, and she still does.
And then took the puddle jumper and then drove with Duke when the car didn't have any second gear.
Right.
Yeah.
And when she comes back to California, he takes care of her, just in the same way as if she had never left. And I personally, and Laura is totally oblivious to it. She never really gets how much, for lack of a better word, I think love. That's the only thing I can use to describe it. How much he takes care of her, and the parting scene is at the end of 18, where Ripley even takes her to the airport to go back to. I guess she's going back to New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of it, she says, it says Ripley took me to the airport himself in the MG. He was being nostalgic. He never drove. And then, and down at the last couple of lines, she says, I gave him a kiss and crutched off into the sunset. She just never gets how much he cares for her. In my mind, that's just the way it seems to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. Another key scene with Ripley, of course, is when Duke has called him. Duke has been after her. Call Ripley. Call. He's leaving message for her. Call him, and it's clearly self-interested on Duke's part.
Absolutely.
And when Ripley comes, Laura comes through for Duke one more time, even after she's been betrayed by him. Yeah, Harriet.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, I do think this is these are love scenes, and it's a dad love, but it is protector. I'm thinking about the moment when he stops her from smoking, correcting the bad habit that
Yeah.
Duke and says, you look like you're 8 years old and you look terrible. Stop that. Make sure nobody won't buy her cigarettes. Um, but I'm also thinking about the way in which Duke uses him, and then he turns it. I think. I mean, Duke, has Duke ghosts her, and then he has Ripley becomes Duke's interpreter. Um, when he says, boyfriend says you're wrecked, what with your foot falling off and losing the part in the play, he says, this place is finished for you, which I took to mean he's finished with you and would like to see you vacated. But that's not my business. And so he becomes Duke's interpreter, delivers the message. Duke has also, set this up so that she will be a fool for love, and arranged to have Ripley see and discover him, and then we can think about the way in which he is. I was a conduit. I wondered if there would be any pleasure in the future. The knowledge that I was the conduit of the start of Peter Duke's meteoric career, a single shining cod. So Duke understands her. He understands Ripley. Maybe. I mean, we don't know how much this is Laura. This is how she sees it. That Duke manipulated it. But it is true that he says he's out there, and the fact that he's the one who's advocating for her to remain an actress makes me very thoughtful about Laura's choice. She says, I'm not going to be an actress anymore. And he says, you're 12. You don't know what you're going to be. But you have to come back and finish what you started. There he is, being a father to her in his field, or we could call him a mentor. But he's valuable that way.
Yeah. And, he has an eye for talent. He spotted her. He sees it in Duke, too. One is the person he develops tremendous affection for. The other is a talented person. He's going to take advantage of that, give him the opportunity. But he's not deceived about the nature. He's a pretty good evaluator of character as well as talent. Anything else in chapter 16 or 17 that we should talk about? What
I would
about
love to jump in, if I may, once more. I loved Harriet's comment about Ripley being like a paternal love for Laura in this moment, which is really interesting because in the play, she's romancing the person who is playing her father. So it's like a different kind of fatherly love that she's being shown in this moment, but she has not received that in the past. And a lot of people in the chat are pointing out how her relationship with her parents is very much otherwise glossed over. Like what we're seeing about her relationship to adult and parental figures is very much through the lens of roles being played. And the thing that I stood out to me whenever I was reading, I mentioned it to Suzanne before we started, was the phrase quarter life crisis. So that appears on pages 230 and 231, and just that idea of these three girls being in the midst of their quarter life crisis in the pandemic with their parents. But Lara is in her quarter life crisis, very much so alone in the middle of nowhere with nobody around.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what the parents are distant from her. It's her grandmother she identifies with. The grandmother plays more of the maternal role. Ripley plays more of the father than her own father. And so there is a kind of family for her in two different camps here, you know. So yeah, Harriet, your hand's still up and no. What about the lightning storm at the beginning of the chapter? What's going on here with the lightning? For one thing, they don't have to work. Yeah, Cheryl.
All right, I have to bring this up. So when we were talking about the Greek symbolism, I put in the chat about and Medusa and how she became Medusa. That Welty to me covers very well in Asphodel, and then you have Cora, Irene, and Phoebe as additional Greek representations and storytelling. And then also when I was reading about the lightning, and I think it was Nell, it might have been Maisie, being silhouetted by the window and the lightning flashing, and they can count 1, 2, 3 and know that the thunder's coming. And I just like flashback to the winds for that one.
Well,
Remember?
right in the middle of a
winds?
tornado, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a storm going on here outside. It's kind of classic motif, isn't it? And the storm is about to break in the novel as well, because Sebastian and Laura are going to be in the audience and see Fool for Love. And when they see that, there's no doubt in their minds what the relationship of Duke and Pallas is. And Sebastian, this model of restraint and the caregiver, goes and slugs his brother, who richly deserves to be punched. But the storm is going to break loose. So we've got that kind of, in the same way it is in the winds, Cheryl, both the storm internal, the winds of change, and here the storm external, I think. Anything else about the storm? But it fits in nicely because it gives them an opportunity to take a break. They're talking without Emily being present. They're going to have to tell her this. So it works out very nicely, I think. It doesn't seem artificial to me. Anything else?
I personally was struck by the fact that they were telling the story without Emily being present. I had to keep going back and making sure that she wasn't there, and being like, wait, why are they talking about this while she's not here? And she's probably the one that is the most invested in the conclusion of why we don't like Duke. You know, like I think from the beginning, she's the one that likes Duke, but everybody else understands that he was maybe like kind of a nefarious character. And we are now like really, really seeing that to be the case. And the storm is happening and the other shoe is about to drop here. And we're letting it happen without Emily being present.
I think one really interesting thing too is that Emily changes. Her attitude changes here.
Yes.
Yeah. Harriet.
Yeah, it's almost as if she needs Emily not to be there, because when Emily says, "You should have told me this years ago,"
Yeah.
Maisie says, "You would have taken Duke's side," and I'm thinking that's why Lara tells the story to the others without Emily. She still isn't sure that Emily won't, although she doesn't. But this topic is the bigger topic. It strikes me as the whole mother-daughter interaction in this chapter. and um, and I'm particularly thinking um, about um, the girl's outrage at the end of Nell's romance with um, her mother's summer stuff that had ended. Um, uh, and Lara saying, "This concludes the story of the summer of your mother. Your mother dated a famous movie star," and she tells them that they'll have to tell Emily that she won't do this part again. Um, that's the language, and that language interested me because I think Melissa in the chat last time said, that the characters in the plays are as much in this novel as the characters in the novel, and that maybe the novel's about the parts we play. And she says she won't do this part again, meaning the part of the story, but also it may be the part that she's been playing for them, and the role of mother that she's enacting, and her thoughts about how she wanted the girls to think that she was better than she was, but she also wanted to tell them the truth in case that it was useful
Yeah.
to and she doesn't tell them the truth. She tells us in this spread that she doesn't really tell us the truth. That
But
is
about one key fact, and that's
what,
Sebastian.
right. But I want to say that she brings our attention to, and excuse the pun, how she's been cherry picking in telling her story. And she's, it's about Sebastian. I staked out every day of privacy in the light of, well, I staked out one day of privacy in light of this merciless interrogation. Um, so we're now wondering about the one day. But it's just this mother-daughter interaction is pretty rich in this chapter.
Yeah, and the role playing in any relationship, um, it goes on. Also, the whole business of memory and the fallibility of memory, the things that are not remembered, things that we reshape, we recast, things that we reevaluate over time. So that notion of memory shaping, changing, growing, developing, altering, being falsified, um, is another key thing I think here.
Wondered actually if she actually meant to lie with the first time. The first time she says, and that was the last time I saw Sebastian. She means it in the context of there um, when she's caught in a chair and expecting him to help her out to transfer her way out, and the chapter ends with her uh, thinking that it was the thing that saved her was the fact that she could, the knowledge that I could get back by myself. That was the thing that saved me, the knowledge that I could get back by myself. But he has deserted her in his rage, and and she says there that it's the last time that she saw him, not necessarily meaning forever, but when the girls ask it, it's about forever.
Yeah, and of course she doesn't see Duke again. He doesn't come to tell her goodbye. She doesn't see Palace again. No.
They
She's
never
she's on her own, but she's got Ripley. Yeah. I I wanted us to look at the passage on page 253 and see what you think about this. She's told them about Duke and Palace, and when did you see Duke? I didn't see him, and so forth. And they go out to work. I stay behind to make the lunch, which I should have been working on while I was talking all this while. The past need not be so all-encompassing that it renders us incapable of making egg salad. The past, were I to type it up, would look like a disaster. But regardless of how it ended, we all had many good days. In that sense, the past is much like the present, because the present, this unparalleled disaster, is the happiest time of my life. Joe and I here on this farm, our 3 girls grown and gone and then returned, all of us working together to take the cherries off the trees. Ask that girl who left Tom Lake what she wanted out of life, and she'd never in a million years have said the Nelson Farm in Traverse City, Michigan. But as it turned out, it was all she wanted. And then in the next paragraph, she writes, says to us, once I finished with the sandwiches and put the bags of cookies and chips in the backpack, I walk on past the kitchen garden. The lettuce and tomato plants and zinnias are already straightening up from the beatings they've taken. Those tiny periwinkle butterflies are working their rounds. Where do the periwinkles go in rain like that? It's not that I'm unaware of the suffering and the soon to be more suffering in the world. It's that I know the suffering exists besides wet grass and a bright blue sky recently scrubbed by rain. The beauty and the suffering are equally true. Our town taught me that. So what about this statement from Laura? How do you respond to that? The doubleness of experience, unwilling to say that this time at Tom Lake, as horrible as it has been, was not without its moments of joy. And she looks back very nostalgically. She and Sebastian, she asked Sebastian, can we go back to the farm? Can we do it? And he said, I'll take you, but we got to get Palace here in time for her show. So she's looking back nostalgically at the past there, but I think she has a much more realistic view of the farm now than she did at that blessed day, and she still loves it in all its complexity and all its difficulties. So all the things in life are double, as Eudora Welty did say, yeah. It's a kind of, I've just finished reading Ian McEwan's What We Can Know, and this is a much more affirmative statement, I think, that comes out in What We Can Know, which is a great novel, I think, but oh boy, is it hard hitting. Anything, nobody wants to talk about that passage? It speaks for itself. Laura, you don't want to talk about it all the way from Italy? I want to hear from Italy
Well,
here.
well, I've been thinking about sewing while this conversation's been going on because I'm a quilter and I love sewing. And I don't think Monica is here tonight. She also, I think, loves quilting and sewing. Anyway, because you had mentioned how when you were talking earlier about memory and thinking about things that we shape and change, and you mentioned altering,
right,
which is another great idea with sewing. And so I the whole time going through this, Lara is making quilts. She's piecing quilts for her daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going on behind the scene many times. And I guess I was just thinking about that with the beauty and the suffering are equally true. And it's like that putting together of a quilt. You have the beauty and you have the suffering, you have the two things, you're putting them together. So that's what I'm thinking about. And the way it goes through, and also the lack of the connection with her grandmother, and how Lara's connection was with her grandmother, her business, and in college to make money was doing altering, and that when she injured herself, the thing she fell back on was again the altering, and again, and Palace was losing weight. She had to alter the dress down. Like the idea of that's the thing that she was that theme going through. That's what I've been thinking of.
I love that scene where Duke comes in and says, "You've got to get in touch with Ripley," and Laura saying, "Could you put me an ironing board up here? I want to finish my project." So one guy he's worried about getting ahead professionally. We wants Ripley, and she's thinking about the stitching, yeah, which is a kind of art form in itself, yeah.
It's serious business.
I love what you said, Laura, about it's altering, but then also mending. Like we're altering memories, and as memories change, they're altered, but then we are also mending them, putting them back together in the way that they're supposed to do. And I think back to the cabaret dancers' costumes. You can sew on those spangles as tight as they will go, but some things just never stick. They come right off. You dance them off.
Bill.
Yeah, I thought that's a great point that Laura made. Is it Laura? I can't see without my glasses. That she made, and the story is very much like a quilt that Ann Patchett's putting together. I mean, we see part of the patches that she puts in, part of the quilt work, and the daughters see something too. And so it's a blend of all those pieces and parts of her life that she's put together. I just want to say that I couldn't resist when I hit this chapter, reading to the end of the book. So I don't know if anybody else has done the same, but wow, I admire your restraint if you haven't done it. So
no spoilers, no spoilers.
A lot of twists and turns yet to come. It's good.
Yeah, no spoilers. I have to fight myself not to give things away. I've given some things away to Anna, who may never forgive me. So yeah. All right, Harriet.
Yeah, I was thinking about this sewing stuff. I love that. Of course, I can't resist thinking about Eudora Welty, who would cut up her stories in just little strips and put them on the bed and pin them together in the right way, find the order. And of course, that's what Laura is doing too, as she's piecing the story together for herself, for the girls, and then I thinking too about, well, not that I'm thinking about storytelling, I'm thinking about Nell, and the moment when I guess it's Maisie who says, uh, "Forget acting, the FBI needs you." A good. She gets so involved in the story at this point that she can predict what is about to happen. I'm just thinking about her being the excellent reader of her mother's story, so much so that she is getting ahead of her mother in telling the story, and the relationship between the two of them, as this is a useful story that Laura is telling her daughter, and it's having an impact on her that is maybe a little bit different than the other two daughters.
Now, I love it that Nell has gotten her makeup on for this final part of the story. She's wearing the red lipstick. She is the actress. And as the actress, she's imagined her way into the story, and she knows what's going to happen. So again, to me, it's also about reading and the power of reading, and not just for actresses, but for all of us to imagine ourselves into lives not our own, and the virtue of doing that kind of empathy has that Duke doesn't have, and that allows her, and then generosity to tell Ripley about him, and he's not saying, "Oh, why don't we bring Palace along too?" He's not doing that. So, final, anyone want the last word? Cheryl.
I do, but it's not specifically about the book. Anna always talks about like the Welty at Home Facebook page, and she does a really good job making posts and keeping it updated. And so in the comments, I was reminding people that we can go to the Facebook page and keep talking about the story outside of this 1 hour window, because especially this is such a fantastic story. It's the Welty at Home garden page or whatever, but it's the official page.
Those of you who are just having the quarter life crisis or the half life crisis can do that. I, who am in my 3/4 life crisis, don't do those things. I don't do Facebook. So I'm going to wait. I've got to see you here. Show up here and talk to me on Zoom. I'm proud of myself that I can do Zoom. Thanks to Anna, I can do it, that is. All right. Let's call it quits for today. We'll take off next week. I'm going to be at my high school reunion, 60 years. And I'll be back on the 27th and we'll meet again.
Yes. And so, guys, remember, please send those questions that you may have for Anne to info@eudoraweltyhouse.com. And like Cheryl said, we do have a lively conversation in Facebook. So if you're interested, check out the Eudora Welty House and Garden Facebook page. And we'll see you not next week, but the next week, October 27th. Bye, everybody.
Bye.